Good morning guys, welcome to the next tutorial in the Jmeter series, and today we'll be discussing something which is very important in making your scripts reusable. So we'll discuss Jmeter's variables and functions and how we can use them in various techniques, various fields in Jmeter. The two things which we are going to discuss today is the usage of variables and the built-in functions. For example, we have counter, thread number, machine IP, and n number of functions that are present in Jmeter and how we can make use of them and makes our scripts look good and reusable. So let's go back to the Jmeter. So let's create a sample test plan to explain this script. Let's add a thread group, say user number 5 users, and add a listener, that is your tree. So now you have 5 users. You should add your sampler first actually, the HTTP sampler and a listener. So just a basic script. So let's assume we want to hit this Mercury website on home page. So we do like this, right? So in any way we have to provide the server name, right? So what if I capture this server name in a variable that is my URL, and I can refer that variable anywhere. So you can do it in any number of ways. For example, let's take the very simple one. Let's add a preprocessor. I can add to this one only. You add a preprocessor user defined variable and add a variable here. Let's say URL, and you specify the values here, right? So now URL variable means this URL, and you can add another one that could be your say port number, and you say 8080. So these are something which are static variables. These values will not change because you are already hard coding it. So let's say I have two variables now. First is URL and second is my port number. So this is a preprocessor, right? Okay. So let's come here. So what was my URL? So as we discussed, the syntax of writing variable is dollar in the braces, variable name, and close the braces. So this is how you refer or make a reference to the variable, right? So I'll just copy it here, and we had put the variable name as URL. You can also cross verify from here, and the port number is port. So let's see, instead of putting port number here, let me put a variable port here. So this is not a realistic scenario. I'm just explaining how you can make use of variables in different paths, because this request will fail and you know it, because I don't have any port number for this URL, right? So let's keep the path as it is. Let's try to execute and see what happens. So all these requests are failed. Let's go to the request and see what happened. So you can see this. Okay, I think we made some mistake because we didn't have to put HTTP here, as this HTTP is automatically taken by Jmeter because it knows that it is executing a HTTP request. So let me clear it again and execute. So let's see how it goes now. Oh, maybe my machine is slow. The request is not running right. Stop. What happened? Okay, so this is the request. This URL it picked from the URL variable, and this port number it picked from the port number variable value. So this way you can use these variables anywhere in your script, so that you make it reusable. So now I have my URL stored the exact URL stored in my variable URL. So I can make this reference anywhere in the script. You use n number of samplers, listeners, config elements. You can make use of these variables, and you may have more than these variables in actual script, right? So these variables are pretty simple. I hope you all understood it. So let's take an example of functions now. So for example, let's say this is my server name, and first of all you have a function helper dialog here from where you can look out for any function. For example, instead of this URL I want to hit my machine's IP. So you have a function that is machine IP. Then you can specify the parameter here if you want to. For example, say I want to store it in IP. So this machine IP function's return value will be stored in IP variable. So you can click on generate to generate your function string, copy, and let's paste it here. So I'm expecting it to hit my machine IP and this port number, which it will take it from here, that is 8080, and the path is my home page. First of all, let's see how it goes. Click on run. No. So click on this request and you can see that this went to my IP address and this is my port number. You can also confirm by going to command prompt and type ipconfig. So here you can also see that my ipconfig is the same which Jmeter is hitting. So this is how you can use your machine IP function. So in this you also saw that you have stored this value of IP in this variable IP, right? So what if I copy this IP variable and I'm just giving you an example, and okay, let's put it here. This is dollar and braces IP IP, that is my variable. I'm closing the braces. So from this statement, if my machine IP is getting stored in my IP variable and I'm referencing that IP variable here, so my request should go to my machine IP slash path is also machine IP, right? So let's see again. Let's click on it to execute, and oh, it failed. Slash dollar IP, and it take the value out from here. Maybe it is not saving the value at the same time, and I think I should use it in another request. So let me add another sampler. That is my HTTP sampler, and let's copy it from here and put it here. I'm just assuming that it will take time to save the variable in IP, and I may not be able to use that in the same request. So let's see how it works now. Let me add a listener and then execute. Okay, so first of all I'll do it again. I have to rename it because I won't be able to know which was my request. Let's say it is request 2, and now you run it. So request 2 is, where is it going? It is going to this IP, right? I hope you got it what I am trying to understand and making you understand. So let's go back and understand the logic again. This is my function name. This function has, you can go here, this function has a parameter that is name of variable in which to store the result. So underscore machine IP would give me my IP machine, would give me IP of my machine, and I want to store that IP in this variable, right? And then I'm using this variable in my next request, and it is picking the value from there, right? So this is how you can directly make use of functions as well as variable together, right? So let's take another example. Let's say you want to print the thread number what is running, right? So what you can do is, let's say you don't have path, for example. Okay, let's directly do in bean shell scripting. Let's add a preprocessor here, bean shell preprocessor, right? So for this, I have a function that is thread num. Search by thread num and you'll see. Then click on generate and you get this function string. So let's say I am taking the value of this function string in variable A, and then I want to print this variable. I'm just re-explaining my code. So this is my function underscore thread num would return something like thread 1. For example, if your first thread is running, it would give you value 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. And then you can something like thread number is, then you can give space. So now what I'm expecting is that thread number is, first time it would print 1, then thread number is 2, 3, 4, and see I have 5 threads, so it should print 5 times, right? So let's play. No. Let's check the console. It says thread number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is previous one. So this is the one you just got it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is how you can use your thread number function, or maybe you may require it in different scenario, which I'm not explaining right now, but that doesn't mean you cannot use it there. So it all depends on the scenarios in which you are testing. You can make the use appropriately there. Then if you explore this function helper dialog box, you see that there are a lot of functions here. For example, even if you want to change the format of the time, say I want dd mm y and then y. You can generate the string, so you can use this function and you'll get the time in the required format you desired. And this may be helpful because, for example, you're working for, say, US UK clients. The format of date they wrote there is very different from what we have here, right? You can use this function appropriately as per your requirement. So another most important function which may come across in use in your scripts is the counter one. So what does counters do? So first of all, it has two things. That is true for each user to have its own counter and false for a global counter, right? So let me explain what is this. So for example, I have user 1, then user 2, and then user 3. And this is my counter value, right? So if I put true, which means that every user should have its own counter value. So user 1 would have 1 in the first iteration. This would also have 1 and this would also have 1 because counter is maintained at a user level, right? So when you have next iteration, this user would have 2, this user would also have 2, the value of counter, and this also have 2. because we are maintaining the counter at thread level, not globally. So let's say I put false here. In that case, you cannot have same value of counter for both users or n number of users you have. So in that case, let's say this is CV hash for global. User 1 would have counter value 1. This would take 2 now because it is maintained globally and it has to be incremented by 1 every time for different user, different iterations. So you can use this counter as per your desire and as per functionality you are testing. So let me clear the drawings and let's say I put false here as I want to maintain it globally. Generate the string and copy. So let's go back to my request and let's put it here. So what I'm expecting right now is my machine IP would be my URL slash, it would increment every time. So first time it would be /1, then /2, /3, right? I hope you got it. So let's execute the results now. All threads starting, thread group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, maybe it could be my connection problem. It start working. Let's see what happened. Shutting down all threads. You can see number of active threads in the upper right corner. Okay. What happened? Did I put any infinite loop? No. Nothing like that. And it is still running. Let me see what happened. So here you can see, the first time the request went to IP/1, IP/2/3. The counter is incremented every time, right? Request 1. This is different request. So in today's session, I hope you learn how you can use variables in different fields, makes your scripts reusable, and also there are different inbuilt functions that are available in this function dialog helper box, and you can generate the strings from there and maybe use to calculate something, increment counter, loops, and everything you can use out from here. So that is all for today's session. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.